Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to FC 101, where we talk about herding cats and blowing spaceships up. Let's start with the nitty gritty, the important parts, but also the boring parts of FCing. First of all, you need to create a fleet. This includes the MOTD of your fleet and the Advert. Now, most of you here should know how to set them up, but just in case, we'll go over them anyway. So the most important part is making sure that your fleet advert is visible by everyone. So if all of you could do me the favor of going there, let me turn my game capture on for this. Of course it doesn't work. Give me 1 second. Yes, there you go. I'm recording, but there is no stream, Adrian. Yeah, okay. So go ahead and open up your create advert thingy. To do this, you need to first go to your fleet window, go to my fleet. The top column there. Go to Fleet Finder, go to My Advert, and then go to Edit Advert. I think you can't do that right now. If you're in the fleet with me. So, we'll just go over it anyway. Yes, you can't do it.
We can just leave it temporarily.
Yes. You can leave the fleet right now, guys, to make sure you are following the fleet advert settings with me. If you already know how to set it up, you don't have to. It's more for prosperity. We just want to make sure that we know how to do it. Okay. So when you go to My Advert and go to Edit Advert, there's two things to keep in mind here, which are really important. The fleet name should be something that, well, it should be the thing that you put in your pings, first of all. It should be correct in that sense. And you should have hide details in advert checked, as in it is hiding your details on your fleet advert. Now, the other settings are you want to have it open to your corporation. My corporation is checked. My alliance is checked. You do not want to have minimum standing checked, or minimum security status checked. You want to have based on standings and good selected, right? So anyone with a good standing or better can join. This means 2.5, I think, or 5. I'm not too sure.
5.0.
There you go, 5.0 and higher can join your fleet. And then
The other one thing I'd like to add, Wyeck, is that you want to make sure that your personal standings are not set positive to anyone outside the alliance, because if you have a neutral that is set with a personal standing above neutral, then they can end up joining your fleet and causes all kinds of headaches.
That's a good point. If you're creating a fleet, make sure to check your personal standings. Other than that, you want to uncheck application requires approval, because you don't want to approve every single application, and you want to make sure that hide details and advert is checked. And like I said, the fleet name is the most important one. In the description, you might want to put some memes or the channel that you're using on Mumble or whatever. It doesn't really matter. The most important thing for someone joining a fleet is the fleet name and your name. So as long as you got both of them right in your ping, you should be good. All right, this is how you set up the fleet advert. I've just set mine up. Let's see. Do you guys have fleets up? Lucas has a fleet up. I can see it. Nice. It's memes, which is even better. All right. Go ahead and join back. Actually, stay in your things. Let's talk about how to set up an MOTD. Now, first of all, the MOTD, if you're not using it for like a really important fleet, you don't really have to set it up. But some of the more important things to include in it are your anchor. In my MOTD right now, it's stolen off of Shouted. I have the DPS anchor set as Wyeck Tantalion, and at the top is what we're flying, Pharaox's, and below it is the channel that we're in, which is currently not filled. Let me go ahead and fix that. There you go. And the MOTD will update if you're in my fleet. The way you do this is you go to your fleet chat window, you go click on the gear icon, and you go to open channel setting window. After you opened it, you just type in whatever you want in there, and you click OK at the bottom. You can change the color of things. You can make them bold, italic, underlined, whatever. And you can change the size as well. And there's a character limit of 4,000 characters. So keep that in mind when you're typing up your MOTD. If it goes over, you won't be able to set it up. The channel name does not matter because it's just the name at the top, I think. No, it literally doesn't matter. It's just for you. After you've set it up, you click OK. The MOTD refreshes in your fleet chat window, and you're good to go. Now, from this point onward, you've set up an MOTD. If you wanna, you can set up wings and squads, give them names and shit. And then what you can do is go to your fleet window, go to the hamburger menu at the top there, and go to Store Fleet Setup. Now, this is what I use to keep these MOTDs clear and ready when I need them. Here you will give the fleet setup a name. This doesn't matter, just something so you know which fleet composition it belongs to. For this one, I would name it Ferox's, or I couldn't type it, so whatever. And then you would want to do include current message of the day, so your MOTD is included in your fleet setup. That's why you use this most of the time. And then you want to probably include current free move setting if you have free move on in your fleet setup already. Then you click OK, and it goes to your stored fleet setups. Again, you go to the hamburger menu. There's a fleet setups right under the store fleet setup button. There are the names of your fleets. You click on one of them and it changes. Let me change this thing right now to Macarials. There you go. It's changed the MOTD. It's changed the fleet wing name and whatever. Actually, it added a wing, I think, which is weird, but whatever. People were in it, so I'm guessing it didn't change. This is the other important part of saving your fleet setup. Make sure you're alone when you're doing this, so that it doesn't fuck up the wings. Really not that important. You just want everyone in their squads or wings if you're coordinating something with squads. Otherwise, people joining the fleet and staying where they are is just fine. All right. Any questions so far? Let's move on to... What was that?
Yeah, it sounds pretty clear. No questions.
All right. Let's move on to rating pings. Now, if you're sending a ping for a fleet, you should always use the ping tool. I will link this in Alliance. It's ping.bravecollective.com. If you go there, you will be, after you log in, you'll be able to see the channels that you can send a ping to. All of these channels that you can ping in means you have the permission to ping in there, so feel free to do it. You have HR, IT, stuff like that, along with fun pings and dojo and your corporation if you're in a corporation, stuff like that. And in the box right next to it is the fleet ping. One second. Template. If you use this, if you fill it in correctly, it'll have all of the relevant information for people to be able to join your fleet and pick whatever comms you were in. So, again, one of the important parts is having your fleet names set correctly. Your FC name should say exactly your name, because I sometimes just put Wyeck in there, but it might not be enough for people to find it. I might have another character named Wyeck, which I do. Might confuse people. Just put your full name of the fleet boss, not the fleet commander. There's a channel. You should probably use channels below Alpha if you're doing a fleet. Alpha is restricted to Brave only and is usually used for strat-op purposes. Everything else is fair game. Barvo and Charlie are the most used channels for this reason. If you have multiple fleets going on, If you're not sure if the channel is being used and there's people in there, just hop on in, ask if they're using it. If they're AFK, either use that channel or something else. It doesn't matter. Just pick one of the channels other than Alpha Fleet most of the time. There's the ship types. It's your doctrine. You got to pick your doctrine accordingly to your objective or your enemy or whatever you're doing. It might be kitchen sink, whatever. Just put it in there. Location is where you stage out of. When is you could use this as a pre-ping format too, so you could put blah 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 date as when, and people will understand it as for a pre-ping. The duration is, you try to keep your duration to realistic limits. Don't say it's going to take 30 minutes and then take people out on a 2-hour fleet. They might not be prepared to go on a 2-hour fleet, and they might have just joined because it said 30 minutes. Try to keep your fleet length to what you say on your duration. It's pretty important. We almost never do it because, shit never goes to plan, and just try to keep it, accurate. SRP type, if you have back seats from any of our FCs, the skirmish FCs, strat up FCs, full FCs, doesn't matter. If they're back seating you and it's a fun fleet, you can have fun SRP. Or if it's a strat up, they're backseating you, you can have a strat up SRP. But most of the time, you won't get to have a backseat for a strat up, because hopefully one of our FCs are actually doing it. And the why is to hype people up for the fleet. Doesn't necessarily have to be like full-on information. You don't have to say, oh, we've got this target in this system, we're going to go kill it. You got to keep OPSEC in mind as well. If you want to hype something, just say, shit to blow up, fun to have, content, whatever. I got banned from, I got told by goons when I said content in one of these Y columns, and, we don't care about that. Just saying. Any questions about how to write out a ping? Should be pretty clear.
No.
All right.
Thank you.
Moving on. So, you want to take out a fleet. You've decided on a time. Do you have a plan? Now, this is our pre-fleet checklist. First, probably the most important, if you're roaming somewhere, you got to pick where you're going before the fleet, and make a decision on where to go before people get into your fleet, because otherwise you're just going to run around like a headless chicken, and not a lot of people are going to have fun, right? But people don't mind if you have a goal in mind and that goal doesn't meet your expectations or whatever, as long as they are having fun. So pick where you want to go. One of the things I would do when choosing to roam somewhere is look for a wormhole to an active region during that time zone specifically. Or you could filament if you don't have more than 25 people in your fleet. Or you could look at timers and figure out a timer that's actually going to be contested and third party on it. And then once you've decided on a region to go, I would go on .land, find out the region, find out where we're going to go in from, or what's the nearest crabbing systems if you want to hunt, VNIs, or, well, not VNIs, Dominixes and Gilas or whatever. I would go onto .land, find a cluster of systems near from where we're entering a region. I would go to NPC kills and then NPC kills delta, look at what systems are active currently. The delta updates every hour, so it's not super correct, but gives you a nice idea of which systems might be active. And then NPC kills in the last 24 hours is also a good metric to see which systems are usually used in time zones other than this one, for example. I would look at those. If the delta shows something like plus 300, that's usually smart bombing or super routing, so you might not necessarily want to go there if you're going there with like 15 cormorants, and the biggest thing you can kill realistically is a carrier or, I don't know, a battleship or whatever. And then you might want to look at jumps in that system to decide, is this an active pipe? Are there people coming in and going out? Is the staging system? Usually, an alliance or coalition staging system will have the most jumps in their region if they're using it actively. And those are usually good places to go. Although, if you go to 9UI in Providence and shoot their Ansible for 5 minutes, they will outform you, they will blob you, and that might not be something you're looking for. So keep that in mind when you're picking a fight. All right. You've decided on where to go. You found a faster way to get there, be it through a wormhole or, I don't know, wormholes. Just wormholes. Regular wormholes, Theta wormholes, fucking drifter wormholes, anything for you to get to content faster. And then you've checked out what groups live there and when they're active. So you've pre-pinged the fleet, wanting to go there to shoot some people. And people are saying, oh, this zone, this region is dead. Why are we going there? There's no content there, or whatever. This is one of the important things about FCing. Oops, my chat's just died. Hope I'm okay. You need to be able to assert yourself. You have to have confidence in yourself, even if you don't think what you're doing is the right path, or it might lead in a fiery ball of death. Who cares? This is a game. You need to know when to tell people to shut up and know when to listen to their advice. It's important because sometimes people just tell you stuff because they want to be involved in the process, but sometimes they're telling you something because it's genuinely not a good idea. That is all up to your judgment. You could be the guy that never listens to anyone, does whatever the fuck they want, and then you become an FC like me. And then, fucking world fleets, whatever. And you've decided on the doctrine you want to take, if you're taking out a doctrine. And then one of the things you should, as an FC, one of the responsibilities you have is making sure that that doctrine you're taking out is stocked on the market. This doesn't mean you stock the market yourself. Just make sure that the ships that you want to fly, people can actually buy, be it through contracts or market or whatever. If you see a hole in the market, just tell the industry bros to fill it up or whatever. Just make sure that it's stocked. All right. We talked a little bit about Dotland and how to check, how to hunt for content. Let's get a bit more into it. So let's go to Providence. Go ahead and open up your Dotland if you guys don't have it. I will link it in Fleet. And on Alliance, there you go. That is a regional map of Providence in Dotland, which you might use to find where they're staging at or where there's routing activity going on. If you look at it with the jumps, right there at the top, right next to the Providence name, not right next to it, to the top right, there's a drop-down menu with select choices between jumps 24 hour, whatever. If you click on jumps, it shows you the jumps in the last hour. If you click on jumps 24 hours, that is, you guessed it, it's still jumps in the last 24 hours. If you go to jumps, you can tell that 9UI has the most jumps in the corresponding, the next systems next to it do, which means 9UI is most likely their staging system. And then if you wanted to hunt for people ratting, you would go to NPC kills and NPC kill delta. Looking at it, systems up north have some deltas, which might be promising. Some in the south, some in the east. If it's green, it means there's been an increase in the kills from the last hour. So it's not always, delta doesn't always mean someone's been crabbing there all day and just ramped up or whatever. It just means that in the last hour, that system's been active. Sometimes you might see deltas of like 30. 30 is still kind of subcap ready, though it's not really like you would look at something like 50, 60 if it were, say, a Gila or whatever. Just a Dominic's subcap ratting would show up as like 40 to 50 range. 30 is probably gate rats. Again, I don't think the delta is exactly the number of rats killed, but I'm not too sure about that, so I'm not going to spread misinformation. Yeah, so one of the things to look out for here is, after you've looked at ratting deltas, if you look at the systems itself, they have like blue lines around them. That means there's ice belts in those systems, and now that the ore changes have happened, most people will be mining ice or doing moon mining, so ice belts might be places to look out for, since they don't spawn in every system like mining belts do. So they might have potential content or stuff you can whale on. Oracles, maybe. I don't know. And one of the other things is, for example, you found a system, let's see, 7YWV. I would open up my in-game people and places, go search it. 7YW. Okay, that was the wrong one. Is it not called 7YWV? Huh, I guess not. Alright, I'll just search for 3KB. Okay, my search thing is fucked, I think. Oh yeah, it's set to exact terms. That's my bad. I would go to that system, look at its index. For example, 3KB has a delta of 180 right now, but the military index is only level 1, and it fell down from level 2. So it probably looks like this was level 1 before, and someone's trying to ADM the system up. Or it's been active in the last couple of hours, but not like a big amount of ratting going on. I would not hold out my hope for this system, but you go there, you might find something, you might not. It depends really. But going in game and checking the indexes, like the military index and the industry index, are always a good idea, because Dotland does not show mining, but you can find that information in game, right? Industry index going higher means there's ratting going on in, mining going on in that system, and those are also easy targets. Easier to kill, easier to catch than most ratting ships, really. Like an Orca Alliance in 30 seconds or whatever, right? Yeah, let's not get into specifics. Any questions so far? I know I've been talking a lot without asking questions.
No, not from me.
No, your pace is good.
All good so far.
All right.
All good.
So we talked about a little bit about how to hunt, and then let's move on to starting an engagement. Let's say you've taken out a Caracal fleet to fight, I don't know, a Moa fleet that's coming to GE. You want to fight them? There's like 10 of them. There's like 15 of you. You're flying in a Caracal. By the way, one of the things I would recommend is to get an FC boat for whatever ship type you're flying. Preferably something with probes and also brick tanked, so they can't really headshot you, or it's significantly harder to headshot you than any of your DPS. You found someone you want to engage. First, you need to decide on how to find them and how to engage them. If they're in system and you have scepters in your fleet, I would ask all of them to go to gates or perches or whatever to find them if I cannot probe them down. And if they see something on D-scan, you can then put your probes on whatever they are and find them, and then have a warp into them. But it's almost always important to have eyes on the enemy fleet, especially if they are using dictors with them. So if you want to start an engagement by warping to someone off grid with probes, you will almost always be disappointed with how it ends, because warping 30 AU and cruisers is going to take you like 15 seconds after counting for align times. By the time you've landed, they will not be at the range that you chose. or worse yet, they might have put a defensive bubble on themselves if they're like brawlers, and you're in clericals, which are, kitey ships, and you will land right in their bubble, unable to get out, and they will just melt you with their short range weapons, right? So it's always important to have eyes on people that you're planning on engage, and then you wanna decide on a range to fight them, and you want to get a good warp in. A good warp in doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I probe them down, I will warp to them at 100, and then we'll kite away or burn into them. A good warp in could be, there's attack, there's a wreck that you can warp to, you don't always have to probe. A friendly scepter, a scepter might be in good position to warp that range, so you can start engaging them, whatever. You might also decide to engage someone on a gate at range, but they will jump through the gate because they're not aggressed, and then you have to burn to the gate or bounce off of attack to get back to the gate, at which point they'll run away. So you have to be very bloodthirsty when you're thinking of engaging a fleet. Starting the engagement favorably is super important. So you want to pick your range, you want to pick your direction, and you want to just go at them and start fighting as soon as possible, because otherwise if they think you're outnumbering them, they're going to run, and if you don't have tackle or you don't have enough tackle, you're not going to catch enough of them. So you have to pay attention to where they're going. You have to warp in accordingly so that you don't land in their path, or you don't land right behind them. So there's things to consider, but all of this is better learned through experience than me talking about it. But just think about starting an engagement on your terms, and just try to make it favorable. And then there's ending an engagement favorably. You found an enemy fleet, you warped in, you started fighting, you're losing some people, but you're not quite breaking them. You have to think, if we keep doing this, will we lose all of our members, and are we all gonna die? Or is there a chance that with a couple guys that still didn't undock or didn't catch my warp, when they join us, will we have enough to turn the tide or whatever? Or you might have friends coming in and you need to hold grid. Again, stuff that you need to learn through experiencing it. But let's just say that you're bleeding numbers faster than you expected. You need to pull out, but there's a couple scepters on you, or a dictator burning towards you. You realize that they're going to win this fight, and they're trying to keep you tackled. So you red cycle old guns and try to kill their tackle and get most of your fleet out. At that point, your only worry is making sure people survive your fleet. On the other side of the coin, you might have gone into an engagement and started fighting people, and you're winning, at which point you might be like, well, they're going to run, but where are they going to run from? Or where are they going to run to? Say you have a dictator with you, we're fighting in GE, somewhere around Keepstar Grid. You see their FC aligning towards Victor 3, which means they're going to go there. So you tell your Saber to warp to the gate at 100, put down a bubble, so that when they enter warp, you catch them off the gate. And then if their FC doesn't have eyes on that gate, or they're panic warping, you might catch them again and get to kill the stragglers or the rest of them or whatever. You need to try to not assume. I'm at a loss for words here. Predict what your enemy is going to do, and you try to one-up them. Especially when they're running, they're going to try and do it in the most slippery way possible. This might be just warping to a random tack first, and then warping to a gate to throw you off the scent. But usually, a gang in GE, for example, you know that they're going to run through Victor 3 or YHN or 3 Taco, because they're going to go back to DSS, or they're going to go through Victor 3 up north, or they're goons, so they're going to go back to HY or whatever. Almost all groups have an escape route planned, and it's your job to intercept that and stop them from running. Right. Any questions?
Tips on deciding if an engagement is going to be favorable for your ship type versus theirs?
Great question. So, this is not such an FC 101 topic. A lot of these aren't actually, now that I realize we're talking about them. One of the first things you need to consider are numbers. Now, I don't look at fleet members just as a number, because I know everyone in my fleet almost all the time, and I care about people having fun, but you need to look at your fleet, and you need to look at the enemy fleet, and realize that you're not taking on 40 maelstroms with your 25 caracals or your 25 pharaxes. The way to decide is your force multipliers. This can be your EWAR, your recons, stuff that make you stronger than you already are, without costing you 5-10 pilots. So say they're running a kitey comp, and their speed is their survivability, and you have 3 Hugians with webs, which means you can web down 6 of their ships at a time, or all of their anchors. You can bring them to basically dead stop, at which point they can't tank your damage, even if they were like, say, let's go with AB Zealots. They're sick tanky ships, which go like 700, 800 meters per second, and their speed is the only thing that's saving them most of the time, and their tracking disruptions. If you don't have the numbers to outright kill them with alpha damage, meaning when you call a target primary, it dies within seconds without being able to catch reps, you might have to use EWAR to your advantage. Now, this is one of the great things about Brave fleets. We have a lot of EWAR, we have a lot of force multipliers, because we have people from both sides of the coin, high SP players and low SP players, new bros that are willing to join in, want to have fun. They can fly EWAR that will absolutely fuck up your enemy's fleet, enemy's day, and your high SP bros can fly the recons that will absolutely make sure that your fleet is on point and applying damage or whatever. So when I look at a fleet of 40 zealots and look at my fleet of 30 pharaxes, I realize that we don't have the alpha or the DPS to break them when they have 6 guardians, and that we would bleed more ships than they would, which means the engagement would go pretty horribly for us. But say we had a fax on grid providing us with reps and we're not getting alpha'd, I might be willing to take that fight if we also had an EWAR wing making sure that they're not tracking, disrupting us, or we're slowing them down so we can apply damage. Or we have jams so that their Logi are not as effective, so we can kill their Logi first. Say they have a wing of 6 Logi and I can jam 4 of them out at a time. That means the other 2 Logi that they're still not jammed, I can shoot one of them and the other one can't rep it, so it'll die. You know, making sure a bad situation does not stay bad is up to you. You decide on what you can engage, after getting some experience with matchups and knowing what each ship does specifically for your composition. But when you're starting out, I'll just say have more people than they do, and you should do okay for the most part. Because the stuff that you're taking out, T1 cruisers, people don't mind losing them, right? And if you have fun at the end of the day, it's all good. There's a reason why anyone in Brave is allowed to ping for a fleet. We want you to ping for a fleet. We want you to take command. We want you to get other people to have fun. All right. Any more questions?
Question about the FC, you mentioned earlier that would be a good idea to get something nice and tanky. But doesn't it stand out from rest of the fleet if it's different?
Well, sure, it does.
And wouldn't you get the headshot because of that?
Well, here's the thing. An enemy FC can tell that you're an FC just by looking at who's anchoring all of the fleet. It's not hard to miss. Everyone is going to be following you, and doesn't matter what ship you're in. unless you're orbiting like random people and they're just keeping it range, or you're not anchored at all. If I want to know who their FC is, I can just look at them in space and find it out. So that is the reason I would never fly a Caracal with a Caracal fleet, because it's going to be too squishy, and they might just call you a target. If it's a fun fleet, other FCs will try not to headshot you, but they will sometimes. It's unavoidable. If you're in a Caracal, they might just call you primary because they think you're in a normal DPS boat. Whereas if you're in a Cyclone doing a Caracal fleet, they'll be like, oh, this guy is either Lynx or FC. And when they see that they're anchoring on you, if they're here for fun, they won't shoot you anyway. But if they do decide to shoot you, you're 4 times as tanky as a Caracal, and you can catch reps better because your resist profile is a little bit better, and they're wasting their time shooting you while you can blap them in return.
I see. Thanks. But what would be your recommendations then for a shipper?
For FC boats,
Maybe a command destroyer or something like that.
depends on your fleet comp, right? I would do, for example, with T1 Cormorants or the other one, not the Jackdaws. I'm blanking out again. What's the missile boat? Talwars. There's a fine line to walk between those, because if you fly something that's worth about 10 Talwars, they're going to shoot you on principle, because you shoot the most expensive ship at the start, so you're guaranteed as much S destroyed as possible, unless it's a strategic objective, at which point you would start with whatever is threatening you. I have fits for like Cormorants that I use as SV boats that have like 12,000 HP and have probes on them. It really all depends on preference. As long as your FC boat is not significantly faster than your fleet, and you know to set your speed slower if it is, it's tanky, and if you need probes, the ship has probes, you're good to go. Like, you can use a Harbinger, a shield tank Harbinger, to anchor Feroxes if we really wanted to. There's really no limit to it. But I don't know that we have any resources for this. On the wiki, there might be FC boats for some doctrines. For Caracals, I use a Cyclone. For Feroxes, I use a Drake. For Omens, I use a Harbinger. A Harbinger. For the bot fleet, I use a Prophecy, for example. And then anything bigger than that, I use a Monitor. These are all big tanks, and they have either boost or links, boost links or probes that you want, and a Horgun on it. If you want help fitting up an FC boat, you can contact me on Slack. Ask me about it whenever you want. If there are no more questions, I will move on to the next topic.
I have one question.
There you go.
When you are moving around, do you use the tactical camera, this free move one with Q click, or you just use the standard one?
Good question. I use the tactical, but I double click in space.
Okay.
To account for, I use a tactical so that I know where they're heading, if they're changing direction, whatnot, and I can tell, roughly what distance we're at from each other without having to rely on the overview. Because most of the time on my overview, I sort by ship type or name, not by distance. So the tactical overlay helps with telling distance.
Not the overlay, the tactical camera. This is the one with the free move.
Mm-hmm.
That's not centered around your ship.
Oh no! If I'm double clicking in space, I zoom all the way in,
Okay.
and I click in space, and I zoom out, to assess situation or whatever.
Cool.
All right, moving on. We talked about force multipliers and how they're important to winning an engagement that you might not otherwise be able to win. We do this quite often, actually, with startups. When Tickle or whatever being Loki's, we need to have an EWAR wing that's dedicated to, tracking, disrupting them, or dampening them so they can't shoot as far, jamming them or whatever. And this gives us an advantage that we can't quite get with numbers. Your special snowflakes in the fleet, they're really important. Make sure to, for example, if you're doing a Firex fleet, it's absolutely crucial that you have info links or a material fleet. You will get used to this as you do it again, but some of our doctrines are reliant on having certain links. So make sure that you read the wiki on the doctrine, because most of them have how to fly or how to anchor tips on their wiki page. So read up. Right. Let's do the last topic. You've done your fleet. You warped to the keep. Sorry, you've docked up and you're standing down. Now, if it was a whelp, think about what you did that might have been wrong, the wrong decision. Just because you whelp doesn't always mean it was your fault, by the way. Don't ever think that, and don't ever feel bad about losing ships. People join your fleet and knowingly that they could lose a ship, right? This is Eve, after all. Anything you undock, you've basically lost anyway. If you really want to learn what you did wrong or what you could have done better, feel free to ask your fleet members their opinions, because they might often have something, that you didn't realize that you did. This is one of the ways that I try to improve myself. I will just join the fleet and I will just end the fleet and then ask someone, hey, you want to do a quick AAR with me? More often than not, they're willing to do that, and we talk about what I could have done and what I didn't realize I did wrong from my perspective, because as an FC, you will almost certainly get tunnel vision a lot of the times. You're focused on anchoring your fleet. You're focused on giving important information. You're trying to get primaries down as quickly as possible. That sort of stuff. And you're talking about it, and you don't realize someone dropped 2 supers on you, which have wiped out half your fleet. This has happened to me, by the way, is why I have experience with it. Right. Learn from your mistakes. Talk to people, and ask their opinion. This is brave. We will never talk shit about what happened. We will just make fun of you in a friendly manner, like they do with me. We're not actually going to make fun of you. That was a joke also.
Aww.
And then people will enjoy themselves, and they'll come on your next fleet, and you're going to have extra people, more people coming in than you had before. And if 5 people join your fleet and all 5 of them had fun with you, they will join your fleet, on principle next time or whatever. Like JDC4, that is correct. And one of the things you need to consider as an FC is you need to basically make a name for yourself. This could be through self-promotion. You might be talking about that last fleet you had in Catch Comms, where you had a ton of fun. You might link your kill mails in local or whatever, and people might be like, oh shit, they got that and that? That looks like fun. Maybe I should go next time. And then you start building up your customer base, so to speak. And then, as they have fun, you have fun. That's my priority, is to have fun and get other people to have fun. Just shoot the shit, enjoy yourself. Don't get disheartened if you lose an engagement, if you whelp an entire fleet. Shit happens. Just write an AAR, talk to other FCs about it, and remember to keep your head up high and have fun. This is a game after all. All right.
Can I just say one thing here, Wyatt?
Yeah.
You will always get people telling you that you're bad. Now, you can pick up the good things out of what they're saying, but you mustn't ever let it get to you, because there will always, or like your,
you're cutting
whatever
out.
reason, and they'll always trust you. So it's just a case of
Okay.
and leave the negative.
Yes. What Yanda's trying to say before he cut out is, people are going to say shit. They're going to shit talk in local or whatever. You don't take it personally. They're just talking out of their ass. Pick up the good stuff, because truth hurts. They might say, oh, you did this and you done fucked up, and it might actually turn out to be true. But just don't take it personal is really important. Oh, and write an AR. Like, this is super important. When you're done a fleet, you docked up, you're standing down, write an AR. This helps other FCs track your progress. We might ask questions about it. We might encourage you to do more. And it's also a great way of advertising your fleet so you get more people joining next time. All right. Any questions? Any questions at all?
You mentioned earlier that you might talk about some stuff in the future. So is this just a one-off class, or are you planning to do like a series or something?
Well, there's some stuff that I had planned before, like a FC training manual, so to speak. We might get to that at a later point. This, the reason I'm not talking about more advanced stuff here is because this is just an FC 101. We talked about how to create a fleet, how to write a ping, basic stuff.
I get that.
And
what I'm asking is, are you planning to do more classes in the future?
Yes. Hopefully there will be more. Unless I die or, real life takes priority or whatever.
Cheers.
Die.
Well, I mean, you never know what's going to happen to you. Anyway. Guys, thank you for coming to the FC
That was
101
ominous.
class. I hope you've enjoyed, I hope you've learned at least something. I know I'm not really great at, talking, and, I'm shit at this game, but I hope you've enjoyed this, and hopefully we'll do more advanced, in-depth classes next time, where you can join in and learn more, if you're interested. Remember to undock.
Thank you.
Thank you.